Hey yo, what is going on guys? CashinClean here, and for today's video I just wanted to give you guys a power rank guide. Now even though I have a bunch on my channel, there have been a bunch of you guys that have been asking me to make an updated one, so here we go. Now if you do want to skip around, I will leave timestamps in the description and you can just check out the chapters, the little sections on the video, so you can kind of skip around there if you really want to go to a specific section. But I'm going to try to make every section as simple as I can. At the moment I'm on a brand new account, and if you want to end up having a power rank like this, then stay tuned for the video. So to start things off, I'm going to kind of start low and then work our way up. So we're going to start as if you're brand new to the game. So I have a fresh account over here. We got CashinClean over here. First thing I would highly recommend, do your quest line. So I have this one over here. I kind of started it. I made some progress to it as well as other quests. And eventually you're going to want to do the one that's the expertise quest line. It's basically just going to give you like a little rundown of the game. It'll ask you to get to a certain level. It's going to give you a stellar gem, and then you'll get like radiant and power gems. It's going to be super helpful to get yourself a little boost for your power rank. And as well as crystal gear. It is a little bit bugged at the moment until they fix it, because at some point you're going to have to craft a crystal weapon, but to do that you're going to have to go to the hub now to do that, because you can't go to Geode topside. It's not going to make sense if you're brand new to the game, but if you're like an end game, mid game player, you kind of understand what I'm getting at here. So if we go to the hub and go to this new area over here, we're going to have this area unlocked, and I'm going to get into this a little bit later. But this is how you're going to complete the crystal section of it, so you can craft yourself a crystal, whatever you really need. Now going through the quest, it's going to be a little bit tedious, kind of annoying, kind of going through dungeons, doing like very simple things, but it's going to pay out in the long run because you won't have to see it in the upper right, so that's one thing at least. And you're going to get some stellar gems out of it with some radiant and power gems. The radiants are going to be temporary and the stellar is also going to be temporary, but you're going to need this to get yourself a little boost for your power rank. So at level 10, you're going to unlock this spot over here for your water gem. So you're gonna have to level up at some points, but as you're doing your quest, you do get XP for doing that. And then as you're doing dungeons, kind of grinding out your character, you're gonna get to level 10 eventually, and you'll be given a stellar gem, which is 500 power rank. I think the one the game gives you is gonna be a little bit higher than that, so you could level that up if you really wanted to, but 500 power rank is a pretty good starting point. And if you complete your quest line all the way through, you're gonna get a bunch of stellars for each slot, and it's gonna be one time through, so you'll get one blue, one yellow, one red, and maybe a cosmic. I can't really remember on that. I'm gonna go with no, but maybe. And on top of that, you're gonna get some radiant and power gems. And basically when you're done with all of your quests, you should be at around 10 to 15k power, depending on the progress that you've made. Maybe you even took the little extra step to get some more crystal gear, but we're gonna get into the crystal gear in a second here. And before I forget to mention, you will be getting a Geode quest. So if I hit B over here, I don't know what this is on console, at some point you're gonna get one for Geode specifically, so it's gonna take you to this area over here. You're gonna have to go through like Moonglow Grotto, Verdant Veins, stuff like that. It's gonna be so annoying to go through, but you're gonna need that for the light aspect of this, which we'll get into later. And it does give you a little bit of power rank. So if we take a look at the mastery actually does help. So you only get 4 power rank for each level up until level 500. And that may seem like a little, but if you think about it in like the long run, I guess. So if we climb 100 levels, that's gonna be 400. And after you get to 500 Trove mastery, you're just gonna be getting 1 power rank for each level. Still kind of adds up in the long run because we do get to a very high amount of mastery. There's like so many things to collect now in the game. And it's going to be the same thing for the Geode portion, except you're going to be getting 10 light and 5 power rank up until you get to 100 Geode mastery. So that means when you complete your 100 Geode mastery, there is more mastery to it, but you're just going to be getting the 10 and the 5 up until the 100. So that's going to be 1000 light, and that's going to be super helpful, but that will take a bit of grinding to get to. So don't worry about that too much as long as you're doing your quest line, because you will get a early start to this. You'll get some power rank, you will get some light, because our main goal right now is for you guys to get to U9/U10. U9 is just going to take 10k power rank, which is fine. This is where you can get yourself some stellar gear. But if we go to U10, this is where you can access ships. This is also where you can access more consistent stellars. Now getting to 15k power rank isn't going to be too bad as long as you do your quest lines. Just in case you don't get to 15k PR and you're a little bit stuck, you will most likely make it to 10k if you just do your quest line. You get a bunch of power rank there, especially with the crystal gear over there. We're going to get into the gear in a second, but once you add Pearl of Wisdoms to it, you can add 10 on each weapon. Just make sure you're doing it on the crystals. And once you get one for your weapon, face, and hat, that's going to be a massive boost to your power rank, and it's going to be really easy for you guys to get to U9 at that point. And while you're doing all this, you're most likely going to be doing dungeons and farming gear. So with the gear, you're going to be going to this bench over here. I guess I just did part of a quest. I didn't really mean to. But the main thing that I was trying to show is you're going to be wanting to get this resource here. This one's not going to be too bad, so don't worry about this. but the block of elements. Now I say this because this is untradeable, so you will have to farm this. This is also untradeable, but this is pretty doable. I think you need about 350k flux total to finish all of this stuff in terms of getting the mold. Because if we look at the stuff in here, if you just go through like, I don't know, 1500 flux for the face, for example, you can just go through the face here, you can go through the face here. Basically, you craft 50 of these to unlock this spot, and then you want to craft 50 of something from here, probably the face again, to get to level 100. And you can't go back here to craft stuff to unlock more levels. You have to go to the highest tier that you can, all the way to 250. And if you're farming Trove consistently doing dungeons, you'll be able to get this done pretty quickly. I say quickly, it'll take you maybe a couple days if you're brand new, maybe about like a couple hours if you're like super end game. And if you're in the early / mid game, it might take you about 7-ish hours. It's not going to be the worst thing ever to farm. There's far more other worse things to farm in this game, trust me. Also, if you're trying to figure out how to get the pure forge stuff over here, this is going to be loot collecting 3 stars or more for some type of gear, depending on if you use it for the hat face or the weapon. Just know that the further up you go, the more resources it's going to take. So we got more forge fragments. It's not the worst thing ever to craft. And right now there's a new box that you can get for this specific update in the area that I'm at. It's called the Gearcrafters Vault. I've made a bunch of videos on this stuff in the past, so if you want to check out a better guide of how to farm those things, you can check out my previous videos. But apparently you can get those vaults consistently from like U2 or higher. In my video, I mentioned that you can go to U6 and farm over there if you're like a new player, but apparently you can get the boxes still from U2. So if you're watching this from the future and you don't get your boxes consistently, then consider going up in Uber, because at the moment you're supposed to get them consistently from U9 or higher, but it's bugged for whatever reason. So if you're brand new, you can go to U6, and for whatever reason, if it works at Uber 2, then you can go over there and farm those. And the cool thing about those vaults is that once you hit 15k power rank, you can start getting crystal 3 from those. So every time you hit the karma bar, you can get a crystal 3 weapon, a hat, or a face, and that'll give you a little bit more of a boost to your power rank. Alright, so at this point, once you finish all of your quests, you made a bit more progress on your Gearcrafting Forge just by collecting the block of elements and stuff like that. You should be able to make it all the way over to U9 at least. If you're able to get to U10, that's amazing. I would highly recommend joining the ship chat, because if you can farm some XP from there, I would highly recommend it. You want to get your class to level 30, so that way you can get all of the gem spots unlocked and just put on any gear that you would want to. So you can join a ship. You can even host one, so if you go to U10 Standard Uplands, you can try to find a 5-star dungeon that looks like a ship. It's going to be the one that's not a tower. The towers are basically the platforms all around. Ships are not going to be that. If you're confused about that, I have videos on ships, so you can check that out if you want to, my previous videos. And the cool thing about those ships is that you can farm the vaults, so you can get more boxes. I would recommend saving those boxes, by the way, because you want to get Crystal 5 eventually from those. But Crystal 5 is going to be a little bit tricky, so you're going to have to get maxed out Crystal 4 at the moment, which we'll talk about in just a second. But on top of the vaults, you're going to get some gems. And then if you kind of go around the place, you can see if there's any gear that dropped. You can loot collect that and try to make some progress for your Gearcrafting Forge. Now, an important thing to mention with the Gearcrafting Forge, once you're at level 250, then you've basically done it. So you basically accomplished the hard part by getting to level 250, and I'll kind of get into that. So once you're at level 250, that's what you're going to need to unlock Crystal 5 gear, but you're not going to worry about that right now because you have to get to 45k PR, which is going to be the end goal. But if you are at 30k plus power rank, which we're going to get into that portion later, you can start unlocking Crystal 4 gear consistently. And then if you're below that, so like 15k power rank, that's when you can get Crystal 3 gear. So whatever gear that you currently have, you can upgrade that to Crystal 3 with the boxes, and that will give you a pretty good boost to your power rank. And then the moment you make it to 30k power rank, that's when you're going to try to go for Crystal 4 gear, and you're going to want to upgrade the Crystal 4 gear. Don't worry about the Crystal 3 gear. Maybe if you're super close to 30k power rank, then you can start working on maybe upgrading your Crystal 3, but you don't want to be wasting your resources on the Crystal 3. You want to be using it on the Crystal 4, because you'll need a bunch of cores, which the crystalline cores aren't too hard to get now with this new update, but you will need a lot of forge fragments and nitro. And if you want to make it to the end goal of 45k power rank, because that's when you can start getting Crystal 5 gear consistently from the vaults. I say consistently, it's still a really rare drop, but 45k is what you want to get because that's like the, I guess, end goal type thing. There isn't really much purpose of going to 46k or 47k unless you're trying to max everything, but we don't really have to worry about that. Right now I'm going to try to teach you guys to get to 45k power rank. So like I mentioned, you want to get to 30k power rank to try to get your Crystal 4 gear and max that out. But before we even get into that, you're probably not at that point yet. There are a few more things to do with your gear. And I'll get into gems in a bit because gems are going to be a big portion of this, big portion of your power rank. So we do have a few extra slots. We have the ally, and if you're brand new to the game, you're probably going to start with the 5 power rank ally. There's like millions of allies in the game, so I'm not going to get into that. I have a bunch of videos specifically on how to build specific characters, and there's so many allies that you're basically going to get 75 power rank from them, which is the max amount. Basically, you want to get 75 power rank on the ally, and that's going to be like 95% of the allies. So as long as you're getting a new ally, if you want to know on which specific one, you can check out my builds video for every single class, and that will let you know. There are the new ones from the star chart. So if we look at these allies over here, we got this magic damage one, we have the physical damage one, and then we have a couple other ones in here. And then we also have this one over here for the other magic damage version, which is the movement speed boost. This is from the Paragon bench, which is located over in this direction. And we'll get into this also. So, and we're going to get into this in just a second. So basically, we went over the ally. Make sure you have some emblems, some flasks. The food isn't going to matter too much, but you will need the light from the food. So if you can, try to get electrolytic crystals. I do have videos on that, on how to farm those things, and that's going to give you 300 light. And if you finish your fishing stuff, you can get the food from there, which is 400 light, and apparently that's tradable from what I've heard. It just doesn't last as long. So if the extra 100 light is going to make a difference for you, then maybe you can try to buy that from someone. And then the last two things here we have is the ring and the banner. Now the banner, if you can't get your permatorch, at some point you're going to want to get 250 Levi's done, because that's when you get a guaranteed U10 permatorch, and then you can upgrade it. So basically you're going to get 900 light as well as other various stats. Again, you can check my builds video for every single class if you want to see which one to go for. And that's going to be 350 power rank. And then for the ring, you're eventually going to want to go for crystal 4. But if you can't afford it for whatever reason, and it's too costly for you, it's going to be this bench over here. It does take a little while to craft everything. So if you really do want to, you can just buy one. And the cool thing about these rings is that if you buy like a Shadow Hunter ring, for example, you can put that ring on the knight. So you're going to get the power ring from it and the lights from it. Unless they patch that, which I'm not sure if they ever will. But if you are curious, you can go to the marketplace and type in Shadow Hunter, for example. These are all going to be the ring boxes. The one you want to look for is golden. So that's going to be this colored one over here. 12 million flux. That's a lot of flux. I will be making a flux video, so hopefully that guide helps you guys out. And I have other ones on my channel if you want to check that out. And if you do want to test out your luck, there is a guaranteed crystal 3 or better. So it's a 50-50 on if you get a crystal 3 or a crystal 4. But I would just recommend getting the crystal 4. Now, don't worry about the ring effects that you get on it. That's going to be like another thing, another issue for some other later point. Right now, we're trying to get you power rank. So as far as everything goes, that's everything for the gear. So with all of this in mind, you should be at least at 20k power rank with just the gear alone. And that's not even talking about if you went out and farmed U9 to get yourself some stellar gems. Alright, so at this point, you're going to be around 20k power rank, maybe a little bit higher than that. Now, before I get into all of the gem stuff, let me go over the weeklies real quick, because this will be very important. Alright, so I just hopped over to my main account. So real quick, you want to get these keys, and with the farming you've done, hopefully you've gathered enough of the fragments to craft these. I'll show you real quick where to get these things, but ideally you want to get at least 6 of these keys per week. Obviously the more the better, but we're going to get into the keys in just a second here. Alright, so as long as you're doing your quest line, I think you got to be at least like level 10 or something like that. You should have the Shadow Tower entrance portal unlocked. I'm going to also show you another bench that's pretty similar, but basically I want to go over here to the all-purpose key mold. You're going to find this in a lot of different places, but this was what I was talking about where you craft your delve shadow keys. So you want to make sure you have at least 6 of these, because you want to get your weeklies done as soon as you can. And with the weeklies, you want to go to the shadowy market and you want to use your lunar souls. Now, I'm not going to get into all the other stuff because right now I'm talking about power rank. So ideally, yeah, you want to go for the mastery stuff, but for power rank, we're going to go for the empowered gem boxes. So with these, you're most likely just going to get terrible radiant gems, or maybe a 2-star stellar gem. Now, it's not the end of the world if that happens, and there's also a chance you could get a class gem key. Just make sure you watch my build video if your class requires a class gem or not. I will be making an updated version of that video at some point this year, so stay tuned for that as well. But most classes will require you to get an empowered class gem. So if we look at my Shadow Hunter, for example, I got one there. Basically just makes them more OP. And the idea with these is that you want to try to get a 3-star stellar gem. A 3-star stellar empowered gem. Wait, what am I even doing right here? Okay, I guess I'm giving him 4 shadow caches? No, I don't know what I'm doing. If you guys want a Gonda, by the way, just let me know. I'll figure out what to do with that. But back to the video, before I get off into another tangent, is that these things are time gated. So you want to use your lunar souls on these, and then if we press K or whatever this is on console, go to your contests. So here we have a couple things. We have 3 different classes. This will be once a week, and as you can see, we do have 4 empowered gems. and that's going to be for each class. So if you do have the class unlocked, I can't remember if trial classes work this way, but you want to basically get their effort points up. And in order to get effort points, this could be a video on its own, but basically, long story short, just do delves. Just do coin challenges. That'll be your best bet. That'll get you the most, just about, I think it's about 20 each, depending on which one you do. So you don't have to do too many, but I do recommend going all the way up to the Bound Brilliance. And that's going to be 12 empowered gem boxes just from the contest stuff there. And then on top of the contest stuff, we do have the Lunar Souls one. So everything that you open, you're going to end up loot collecting, unless it's a really good empowered gem that you can use, a 3-star stellar. Don't worry about the stats because you can change that in here later on. Just make sure it's a decent one and you can just throw that on. Just replace your radiance. So once you loot collect the bad ones, you want to go over here to the adventurous crafting bench. You can make this in your cornerstone. So go here, go to gems, and then here we can see a different type of stellar empowered gem. So this is guaranteed stellar. The only issue with this is this could be a 2-star, so you want to look for the 3 stars. Even if the empowered gem is like terrible, if it's like, I don't know, flower power or mired mojo or whatever the case may be, if it's something you don't like, that's okay. You can just put it on your class, and then eventually you can just take it off once you get a better one and put that on a different class, and then you can just use the one that you want. And then another trick that I'm going to show you guys is that if you do want to farm them, I have this in Shangri-La. I don't know if other clubs have this. I'm sure they do, but you just have to find it. So basically we have this merchant over here, and over here he does sell club empowered gem boxes. Now these are going to be radiant and they do take adventurine. Farming adventurine is like its own little thing I can make a video on, but basically you want to do club quests. Or you can do the adventure quests, which give you a little bit, not a whole lot, and then you can take your rewards and just put them all into the club empowered gem boxes. Now, even though these are radiant, that's okay, because you're going to loot collect these to get more of those stellar empowered gem boxes. So there is technically a way to farm these things. So at this point, let's just say that you're still at 20k power rank, maybe even 25k power rank, but at least you're making progress, and you're getting one step closer to 30k power rank, because that's going to be like your next goal. So as you're trying to get these empowered gem boxes, you're going to make your way over to U9 or even U10. If you can get into U10, do U10. You're going to get stellar gems a little bit more consistently here. And if you're trying to get cosmic gems, you want to go over here, but you won't be able to get stellars until you get to Uber 10. Uber 10 is going to have your stellar gems. So just like a small thing to note right there. So from here, you're going to try to get enough light, just enough so you can get to the next Uber. And at some points, you will kind of struggle to do damage, but you can try to join my streams or maybe a streamer and farm with them. Or if you're on console, if you're having a hard time fighting people for carries, maybe you can ask them to leech just for like a little bit, try to get some gems. Just like any way for you to leech, just so you can get that extra bit of damage, just so you can actually solo farm. Because the main thing is you want to try to have a farming class that can do all this for you, and they can just farm all the gems and stuff for a different class. Now at this point you will be farming, so hopefully you do have all of your gem spots unlocked, all full of stellars and all full of stellar empowered gems for that matter, and make sure that they're all 3-star, because the 3-star will give you that extra bit of power rank. And if you are curious about how to make gem dust profit, basically stellars you want to get to level 15, loot collect it for crystals. I have a bunch of videos on this, so if you do want to check out my crystal gem guide video, you can check that out as well. Should be linked in the description down below. And then crystal gems you can level up to level 15, loot collect that, or if you have the extra gem dust, you want to level up your crystals to 25 and then loot collect it, because sometimes you can also get a double level up chance, so you can get to level 26 without wasting any resources, and then you'll get extra gem sparks, and then the extra gem sparks you can end up using to get more gem dust, because every 1 spark gives you 30k gem dust, so the more the better basically. Now with all of your gem stuff and then your gear, you should be at around 30k power rank, and just in case if you're not, if you're really close, dragons do help, but I will be getting into the dragons after I talk about this gem portion. So if you do want to skip to that portion, you can, and then come back to this. But just to summarize, the primordial dragons will give you the most amount of power rank. And from this point, you're going to try to want to get into U10 for the Geode topside area, because that's where you can get your stellar cosmic gems. You're going to need 21, 25 light, and 15k power rank. The power rank you should have already at this point, but for the light, you should already have from the gear. But just in case you don't and you need that extra little bit, just make sure you have your food on equipped, make sure you have a crystal ring, and then make sure you have at least a weekly banner. So if you do have to, go farm some leviathans. For the U9 leviathan, this goes for any for that matter, you want to fight them 3 times, you'll get 3 daily torches, and then you can craft the daily torches into the weekly, which you can get over here at the Sunseeker's Crystal Forge. So it's just at the hub area, and then we go over here, we can see the weekly torches for each one. So this would be the U9 one, that's gonna be 600 light, If you can get into U10, that's amazing, then you can get this one. But if you are trying to get into U10 Geotopsite, then this is going to be the one for you, the U9. And at that point, you should be able to get into U10. You should have enough light. And then from here, you can start farming your stellar cosmic gems, which will give you even more light. And the idea that you want to go for is you want to try to get at least 2 boosts into light. And when I say boosts, I mean the diamonds. If you guys didn't know, these things over here are called diamonds. That's like the proper way of calling them. Other people call them boosts. I know I have in the past, but I have gotten corrected on that. So the official name for these things are diamonds. So just make sure at least 2 of them are into light. And if you don't have that, then you can just get rid of the gem and you can try to farm a new one. It's going to be annoying to do, but it'll be helpful in the long run. And once you do have that gem, then make sure it's like at a decent power rank. I do have specific videos on what power rank is good for specific gems. So for stellar, for example, 1260 or higher is better. And if it's like 1100, it's gonna take a lot of augmenting. Basically, the main thing I'm trying to say here is you want to try to do the least amount of augmenting, because these things are going to be annoying for you to get. You're going to need a bunch of resources, some bound brilliance. It's going to be time gated. You're going to be limited on the power rank that you get. So just try to help yourself get some good gems. It doesn't have to be perfect or anything, but as long as the power rank is up there, and if you do have some decent amount of light on it, so at least 2 boosts in there, at least 2 diamonds into that, then that's going to help you out a lot. So don't worry too much about the empower gems. I'm just talking about the lesser ones. You do want to try to get the 3 diamonds into light as well for the cosmic, but the fact that you even have a good cosmic gem, that's going to be good enough for you. So from there, all you want to do is augment all of your stuff into the light. And then if you can, try to move your diamond into light. And the more diamonds you have onto your light, the more better, because you're going to have more light. And then same with the augmenting. And then overall more power rank as well. Because if you do augment your gems, not even just including the light, you're going to get more power rank. So you will have to do that at some point as well. But to get to 45k PR, you're going to need more than just augmenting your gems. You're going to need crystal gems. So at this point, with everything that we have talked about, you should be at the 30k power rank mark to get into U11, but you might be stuck on the light. Now, you might have it already, or you might not. You might be close to it. With everything we have talked about, you should be very, very close to finishing the requirement to get into U11. And just in case that you're not, so if you are 30k power rank, there's a few things that we can do here. A couple things to look at in the store. If we go over to the gems tab, we have something here called the crystal gem converter. Now it's going to cost you 15k cubits or 1500 credits. If you don't have either one, that's okay. You don't have to worry about that. But this is just an option if you do have that amount of credits or have that amount of cubits. If it is double starbar week and you do happen to have patron, you can farm this thing pretty quickly. I say quickly, it's still going to take you about a week or so, but you'll get there in the long run, basically. And with the crystal gem converter, this is basically to help with your power rank, but it can also help with your light. So what you could do is if you have a good empowered gem, ideally you want to use these on the empowered gems because you're going to get the most amount of light and the most amount of power rank. So I would start with your cosmics. So try to get your light up from there, try to get your power rank up from that as well. But I would highly recommend just doing your empowered gems first. And then if you really want to, you can focus on the cosmics if you really need the light. But I think you'll be fine with just doing the empowereds. So start off with your cosmic. That will give you a good amount of light. And another thing that you can do is you're going to be at least 30k power rank, and you should have your Gearcrafters Forge done already. So if you do that, you can try to farm a bunch of these Gearcrafters Vaults, and at that point you're going to be getting Crystal 4 gear. You won't be getting the Crystal 5, but that's okay. You don't have to worry about that. Getting the Crystal 4 will be very helpful, because if you do get the weapon, that's going to be where you get the most amount of light. So if you are missing that little bit of light that you need just to make it a little bit higher up, then these are going to be here for you. So you can definitely make use of those. It's not like the most amazing box, but it can definitely help you out if you are stuck. And farming these aren't going to be too difficult. You can just go to a U10 ship, or you can just farm by yourself and you can get a bunch of these boxes. Preferably if you do a ship, you want to go into a private ship. So at max like 8 people, just so you can get a bunch of those. And then there is an ally to go with it, so I have the physical damage version, the Geode to a flyer. I talk about this in my previous video as well, so you can check that out. But basically from there, what you're gonna do is get your Crystal 4 gear and start upgrading that, because you want to make sure you upgrade all of your gear. You want to make sure you upgrade all of your gems and try to get as close to max as you can. Now, I did mention these crystal gem converters specifically on your empowered gems, and as far as the lesser ones go, you should have enough light at this point to get into U11. And if you can't do enough damage, that's okay. I'm sure there's a bunch of 5-star farms you can join. There's other people you can leech off of. You can try to join me. I'll be doing a bunch of them on stream. Just try to get as many boxes as you can. Preferably you want to go to like the elemental worlds. So from fire, you can try to get the ones from fire, those boxes, and then you can get the default boxes. I just call it the default box, because these will give you a random one, and then those will give you like the specific one. And then Cosmic, you can just farm in their own place. And at that point, all you're going to want to do is try to get crystal gear, crystal gems, and try to max them out. Because at that point, you're going to want to max out everything that you can. You want to try to get your crystal 4 ring. You want to try to have all of your gear maxed out to crystal 4. And then from here, you want to try to get your perma torch upgraded. It's just going to be 250 Levi's. And then all of your gems, you're going to want to get crystal and then to level 30, and then try to augment them as well, obviously. Now, hopefully everything I have said makes sense. It will take a lot of grinding, but I do believe in you guys. You guys can do it. If I can do it, then you guys can definitely do it as well. The last thing I'm going to talk about here is mastery and dragons. So I already talked about this a little bit, but for dragons, we have the primordial dragons. These are going to be the most important ones. They do take more dragon coins, and then you need 100k flux. I have flux guides, so don't worry about that. And then the gem dust isn't going to be too bad. Ideally, you want to get the cosmic primordial first, but if you can't, then it's understandable because it does take 3 eggs. So you can try to get the other one. The cores you're going to get naturally just from the boxes, so these things over here, just by loot collecting those crystal 4s that you're getting from those. And then dragon coins, just make sure you're doing your hourly challenges. Just set an alarm for every single hour. Even if you're at school, maybe you can take a laptop. I don't recommend doing this, by the way, but if you're that dedicated to Trove, maybe you can try to do it every hour. And there are alternatives. So you can try to get some skelly boxes. They're extremely expensive. I don't recommend them, but they are there as an option. These things do have bound brilliance. They have dragon coins. They also have diamond dragonite as well as other stuff. So you can check that out if you want to. But like I said, they're really expensive. I don't recommend getting them. And then if you're struggling to get the egg itself, because it does take 400 diamond dragonites. And since they are time gated, the only way you can get them is, apart from your empowered gem boxes, maybe you can get lucky and get the egg, but the only other way is the pouches. So if we go over here, we have the tome as well. So if you do have enough flux, you can get 3 a week. It's really terrible, but it's like your only option really. And then we have these pouches as well, which are 5 million each, which is ridiculous. But that's going to be the main thing. It's going to be a waiting game for you guys. And for whatever situation, if you think it's going to take you way too long to get these diamond dragonites to craft yourself an egg to get a primordial dragon, then you can focus on getting one of the fragment dragons or the hatch dragons. I would go for the one that benefits you the most, so preferably one that gives you damage, preferably a stat that you guys would benefit from. So like this one will give you physical damage, so this one's pretty helpful, and that's just assuming that you guys do have the dragon coins and stuff. But ideally you do want to try to get the primordials because that's how you're going to get the mastery as well as a good amount of power rank. And speaking of mastery, these soul dragons, these will give you a bunch of mastery as well. So if we go over here to badges and dragons, these are the dragon ascensions. If we just click on some random ones like Moonwing Dragon, for example, you can see that each little progress that you make all the way up to 100 souls, you get a lot of mastery from this. You get the stats over here at 75 souls, but if you make it all the way to 100, you get 350. And like I said very early in the video, mastery is going to play a pretty big role in this, because you do want to try to get to 500 Trove mastery. Every mastery level up you get 4, and that's up to level 500, and then everything after that is going to be 1, but it does add up in the long run, so it's going to be super helpful that you do that, as well as your Geode mastery. You want to try to get that up to level 100 as well. And that's basically going to be it for this video. I will be making a flux video as well as a guide to build every single class in this game like I have in the past. But I'll try to make a better up-to-date one. So if you have enjoyed, please drop a like on this video. It does help out the channel a lot. Subscribe if you're new to the channel or if you find yourself coming back. And like always, thank you all so much for listening, watching, viewing, and subscribing. And I will talk to you all later.